Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Our mission here is always the same. We take a stack of compelling sources, articles, and profound research, and we distill the absolute most critical knowledge and insight.
Basically, we give you the sharpest possible shortcut to being truly well-informed.
And today, we're tackling a fundamental human challenge. I mean, this is one that has plagued philosophers, artists, and, well, everyday people for millennia.
We're talking about the crushing weight of loneliness. But, and this is the key, we're focused entirely on the transformation of that negative, that empty, anxious feeling.
Into its opposite.
Exactly, into its potent, positive opposite, productive solitude.
And, we're not just talking about simply coping with being alone. That's not the goal here.
No, not at all.
We're talking in a serious, intentional journey that actually shifts your perspective. The absence of others stops being a vacuum and instead becomes this necessary, fertile space for intense self-improvement.
And for spiritual growth, and honestly, for monumental creativity.
So we're exploring how to reach a point where, even if you're surrounded by 1,000 people, you don't feel lonely.
And when you are completely alone, you're never empty.
That's the goal.
And the core foundational idea we have to establish right at the start is this. The person who is fundamentally afraid of being alone will inevitably feel lonely. It doesn't matter what's going on around them.
Regardless of the size of the crowd. That's the paradox, isn't it?
It is.
The solution isn't to frantically acquire more friends or, fill up your social calendar.
The real solution lies in learning how to make deep, lasting peace with the state of aloneness itself.
That internal shift is everything.
It is. It's the moment you stop viewing the absence of others as some kind of failure of connection or a personal flaw, and you start seeing it as a prerequisite for genuine self-mastery.
If you're terrified of being alone, you've basically given away the keys to your own house.
You have. And this deep dive is about getting them back. We are analyzing the psychological and spiritual formula for making that transformation happen.
Okay, let's unpack this transformation process. We have a practical roadmap laid out in our sources. We're looking at 5 distinct psychological steps.
These are the steps required to move from that corrosive loneliness into empowering, productive solitude.
So where does a journey like this even begin?
It begins where all real transformative work has to begin, with a radical, sometimes uncomfortable level of honesty. Step 1 is acceptance and reflection.
So you have to just admit it first.
You must first acknowledge the feeling of loneliness. You can't bury it, you can't medicate it, you can't try to outrun it with constant motion. You just have to accept that the pain is there.
But simply accepting the pain, that isn't enough, right? I mean, that could just lead to wallowing.
Precisely. The sources emphasize you have to immediately move into deep reflection.
Okay, so what does that look like?
You have to relentlessly question the root cause. You have to become a detective of your own soul. You ask, is this feeling truly because of a lack of social interaction?
Like, I haven't seen anyone in a few days.
Right. Or did someone specific leave your life? Are you just physically isolated? Or, and this is the much harder line of questioning, is it something deeper?
Something internal.
Yes. Is it a personal mental state, like you're dissatisfied with your own progress? Is it an unhealthy environmental factor, like prolonged stress?
Yeah.
Or, a really deep-seated internal cause, like a fear of future abandonment?
I think this is a crucial distinction for anyone listening. If I realize I feel lonely because I haven't spoken to a soul in 3 days, well, the solution is external. Call a friend.
Simple enough?
But if I realize I feel lonely because I lack direction or maybe I haven't forgiven myself for a past mistake, no amount of external company is going to solve that void.
And that's the key takeaway from step 1. Understanding the source dictates the solution. If the cause is internal, a lack of self-worth and unaddressed fear, then bringing more people into your orbit only creates noise and distraction.
You're just delaying the inevitable moment when you have to face that internal void alone.
Acceptance and deep reflection give you the map to the real problem.
So once that root cause is pinpointed, and we've accepted that being alone is a necessary stage, the second step is about building an internal structure, internal discipline.
Our sources call this self-development, or mendedictivity.
Mendicity.
It's a beautiful term. It literally translates to educating or disciplining the self. And the goal here isn't just, superficial acquisition of new skills.
Not about learning guitar.
No, it's about the profound achievement of self-mastery. And the main way you get there is by training yourself to rise above simple, momentary likes and dislikes.
Okay, how does that internal training connect directly to overcoming loneliness? It feels a little abstract.
Well, think about it. If you are constantly dictated by fleeting desires, I like this person, I dislike this uncomfortable task, I love this feeling of comfort, then your emotional state and your actions are all controlled externally.
You're at the mercy of circumstance.
Exactly. True self mastery begins when you can choose a path based on a higher principle, even if that path contradicts what you feel like doing in the moment.
Can you give us a concrete example? Because this sounds like the hardest part of the whole process.
Sure. Think about discipline and solitude. Let's say you are alone in your apartment and you know you have a vital, difficult task you need to complete. A chapter of a book, a complex work report, studying for an exam.
Right, the thing you've been putting off.
The thing you've been putting off. Your immediate emotional preference is to avoid the pain of difficulty, so you reach for your phone or you turn on the television. That is letting desire dictate your action.
We all do it.
Of course. Benedict Deary means choosing to work on that difficult, disliked task purely based on the long-term principle that this work is necessary for your goal.
So you're training yourself to be the master, not the slave of your own immediate feelings.
That's it. This internal discipline is what makes solitude productive and empowering, rather than just a moment for, well, passive emotional surrender.
So we shift the control center from external stimulus and momentary desire to internal principled action. And even while navigating this difficult internal shift, the third step is absolutely essential,
Yes, action. Do not stop creating.
a non-negotiable anchor.
It has to be. When people fall into deep loneliness, the powerful temptation is inertia, to just cease all activity, sink into self-pity, or simply halt working, creating, or pursuing any goals.
I get that.
But the sources are vehement about this. Continuous productivity, continuous action, even small, consistent gestures of creative output are absolutely vital.
Why is this continuous action so critical? I mean, if I feel terrible, why can't I just take a break and collapse for a while?
Because continuous activity prevents the total collapse of your self-respect. Our sources call this kabangan, your sense of personal pride, your dignity, your self-worth.
And that dignity is fundamentally maintained by your work, your contribution, your forward momentum.
Right. If you allow yourself to halt all productive activity because of the pain of loneliness, you compound the problem. You add shame and regret and self-contempt to the emptiness.
So action serves as the vital anchor that maintains your dignity.
It's the silent declaration that your existence is still valuable, regardless of whether anyone else is validating it.
That leads to what seems like a beautiful paradox in step 4. Social support. Interacting.
It does seem like
If the goal is self-mastery through solitude, why must we continue to maintain social ties and interact? Doesn't that kind of defeat the purpose of being alone?
It's a crucial clarification. Solitude is not synonymous with misanthropy or, total permanent withdrawal from society.
Right. We're not talking about becoming a hermit.
Not at all. The interaction we maintain is strategic. It's necessary to secure essential support. We are looking for high-quality connection.
So what does that interaction provide?
Emotional support, inspirational affirmation, and critically, it offers the information that people still care for you and love you.
So the distinction is between desperately needing company to fill a hole.
Versus strategically allowing affirmation to reinforce the strength you're building in solitude.
I see.
Precisely. You need that external validation. Not to overcome your solitude, but to ensure that your chosen aloneness remains positive and grounded in a healthy reality. It prevents it from slipping into bitterness or cynicism or total social rejection.
You're looking for connection that reinforces the spirit you are cultivating.
Not connection that you're desperately grabbing for just to avoid being alone for 5 minutes.
And finally, the ultimate pinnacle of this process, step 5, is reaching spirituality, the ultimate companion. This is where the transformation becomes complete.
And permanent.
Tell us about that.
No matter how deep your physical solitude, how vast the empty space around you, the realization that you are never truly abandoned by the divine serves as the ultimate culmination of the journey.
A certainty that no human connection can ever guarantee.
Never. When you reach this peak, when you know you are walking with a companion that cannot leave you, the negative fear of being alone disappears entirely. The state of loneliness fully morphs into the stable, productive state of solitude.
And it improves your internal quality while increasing your closeness to ultimate reality.
Both at the same time.
So the progression is clear. Acknowledge the pain, discipline the self, maintain productive action, secure necessary high-quality human affirmation, and finally, realize the spiritual presence that makes the absence of others, well, irrelevant.
That is a complex but a deeply structured journey.
Okay, so with that practical framework established, let's pivot to the philosophical side. Why should we even embrace this painful but necessary journey? Why is solitude so universally valued as a virtue by great thinkers?
The sources frame its value in three crucial ways: solitude as proof, solitude as freedom, and solitude as fulfillment.
Let's start with that first one, the idea that solitude is the ultimate testing ground for our character. Solitude is proof of self, Timbuktu.
Right. We often celebrate public success, but our sources point to Gandhi's assertion that it's easy to stand tall within a crowd.
But true courage is required to stand tall alone.
And that quote just captures the essence of Timbuktu proving your true nature. When you're surrounded by supporters or colleagues or social structures, your confidence is easily buoyed by that collective energy.
Your actions are moderated by the group.
Constantly. But when you are stripped of that external scaffolding, that is the moment your true character is tested and proven. Are you brave when absolutely no one is watching? Are you disciplined when there is zero social pressure to perform?
The sources connect this directly to the fundamental nature of goodness itself. If a person remains ethical and good only when they're being observed by others, that goodness is merely, what's the term, citra.
Citra, it's an interesting concept here. It means image or facade or reputation management. If you only recycle because your neighbor is watching, or you only speak kindly because you want to maintain your social standing.
That's citra.
It's a performance. It's designed purely to manage external perception.
So, true goodness, authentic virtue, is proven only when the person is completely alone.
Exactly. If you choose the ethical path, choosing integrity over expediency, when there is absolutely zero possibility of reward or social affirmation, that proves the principle has been internalized.
If your morality collapses the moment you close the front door,
You were never truly moral. You were just a good actor. Solitude exposes the fundamental gap between the mask you wear and the authentic self that's underneath.
and this naturally elevates the status of the solitary individual. I'm thinking of Lao Tzu, who suggested that ordinary people despise and flee solitude. They treat it like a curse, but the master embraces it.
Because the master realizes that by embracing aloneness, they aren't separating from reality. They're connecting more deeply with it. They realize they are one with the entire cosmos.
Solitude becomes a required stage for authentic existence.
It's where you shed the performance demanded by others and you truly prove your inherent capabilities, which are independent of the crowd's approval. If your worth is conditional on the affirmation of the crowd, your existence is fundamentally fragile.
But if you can stand firm alone,
Your existence is authentic and self-sustaining. This is the ultimate proof of self.
okay, so if solitude proves our worth, it must also grant us our greatest desire, freedom. Let's talk about solitude as freedom, Kibuba-san.
Arthur Schopenhauer provides that incredibly sharp insight. A person can only be truly themselves when they are alone.
Therefore, disliking solitude is the same as disliking freedom.
And that rings profoundly true, doesn't it? When we are alone, we are truly free in two crucial senses. Free from external obstruction and free from the need for external assistance.
Right. When we operate in any shared space, a home, an office, a relationship, every single action, choice, or movement is subject to compromise, to adaptation, to negotiation.
True freedom means acting solely according to your own unhindered will, and that is fundamentally a solitary state.
This is where Leonardo da Vinci's analogy comes in, which is arguably the most memorable and illustrative point in the sources about this kind of fragmentation.
It is brilliant because he essentially quantifies the cost of companionship, Da Vinci argued. If you are alone, you possess 100% of yourself. Your time, your energy, your focus, your intention.
100%.
But the moment you introduce one companion, you only possess half.
Just one.
Just one. Because the other half is immediately spent in constant adaptation, compromise, and negotiation.
I think we need to linger on that fragmentation because it's so easy to overlook how much energy we spend on just trivial negotiations. We don't realize how much we diminish ourselves just by sharing a space.
Absolutely. Think about the most basic acts of existence. You want silence to read, your companion wants music to cook.
So there's a negotiation. You use headphones.
You want to eat at 6 p.m., they prefer 8. Negotiation. You agree on 7. You want to work on a deeply complex project that requires 6 hours of unbroken focus. Your partner wants to chat about their day.
Another negotiation. You break your focus.
The essential point, as Da Vinci warned, is that the moment another self is introduced, your self becomes fragmented and diminished. The deeper the negotiation, the more energy is lost.
And if you're highly adaptable, you lose more of yourself. If you're not, you just cause friction.
Da Vinci warned that the more companions you have, the deeper you fall into this misery of fragmentation. If you have 4 friends sharing a road trip, yourself might be whittled down to a quarter or less.
Because you're constantly seeking intersubjectivity.
A shared agreement on everything from the radio station to the destination. Every time you have to negotiate space or time or intention, a piece of your 100% self is surrendered.
So solitude is the necessary antidote to this constant dilution of self. It might feel isolating at first, but it is the purest, most efficient form of self-possession.
And the only path to absolute freedom of action. It allows you to operate without hindrance or the massive energy drain required to maintain social equilibrium. You can finally hear your own voice above the constant need to adapt to others.
The only space where you can fully, completely, and unapologetically be yourself is when you are alone.
And that is profound freedom.
Okay, so the third great justification for solitude is its function as the engine of creation and self-fulfillment. Solitude as self-fulfillment. Pemanu Handiri.
We simply cannot achieve our deepest, most serious ambitions without deliberately carving out this isolated space. Picasso's statement rings true here. No serious work or great masterpiece is possible without extraordinary solitude.
This is a universal truth for any intense endeavor, right? Whether it's intellectual, artistic, professional.
Any of them. The complexity of creation demands deep, focused energy. Try to perform brain surgery, or write a groundbreaking legal brief, or compose a symphony in an environment that's characterized by constant interruptions and demands for negotiation.
It's impossible.
Yeah,
Deep work requires the mental architecture to be singular and unbroken.
precisely. If you are constantly being pulled in different directions, the delicate mental structures required for synthesizing complex ideas just can't form. Solitude provides the necessary psychological quiet for the mind to work on its own terms.
Free from the expectations and input of the immediate world.
Exactly. And this principle holds true even in the most intense of all pursuits, the spiritual path, as illustrated by Buddha's teaching.
No one can save you but yourself. You must walk the path alone.
Spiritual progress is fundamentally and irrevocably individual. While we rely on guidance, on community, on mentorship, the ultimate realization, the achievement of enlightenment or self-realization, it can't be delegated.
It's an internal effort that no one else can supply for you.
Your mentor can show you the map, but only you can take the steps, especially the painful final steps toward realization. If you try to rely on the merit or the sanctity of a community to carry you, you fail to walk your own essential journey.
And therefore, you fail to achieve fulfillment.
And for those seeking creative breakthroughs, the novelist Orhan Pamuk connects the pain of loneliness directly to the mechanism of imagination. He noted that he needed the pain of loneliness to activate his deepest imagination for writing novels.
That's a remarkable psychological insight.
It is. Imagination runs wildest not when you're surrounded by the comfortable chatter of conversation, but when you're isolated and under pressure.
So when we're alone and struggling with that emptiness, the mind instinctively tries to fill that void.
And what does it fill it with? Fictional worlds, complex narratives, revolutionary solutions, deep philosophical structures. The feeling of aloneness provides the necessary creative pressure to push the mind into profound, novel thought.
The pain forces the imagination to compensate for the missing external reality.
It does. So, whether your ambition is an artistic masterpiece, a professional breakthrough, or spiritual enlightenment, solitude is the necessary stage for self-fulfillment. It's the autonomy to pursue what your soul perceives as beautiful,
Even if others don't recognize it yet.
especially if they don't. If your soul perceives genuine beauty, a vocation, a deep ambition, a truth, you automatically begin moving toward it. If that path is unpopular, misunderstood, or requires uncomfortable sacrifice, you will walk it alone.
Solitude is the path for realizing one's deepest desires, ensuring that the fulfillment, when it comes, is truly and uniquely your own.
Exactly.
We've established that productive solitude is psychologically necessary and philosophically virtuous. So now, let's take the final highest step. How does solitude act as a gateway to profound spiritual awareness?
This is the ascent from self-mastery to encountering the divine.
And the Trappist monk Thomas Merton provides the perfect bridge here, doesn't he?
He does. He points out that if you try to rely on the illusion of perpetual friendship, which is inevitably broken by separation or death, you will constantly suffer loneliness.
But the one who makes peace with this reality, choosing the truth of aloneness, will eventually realize the presence of the unseen God.
That's the core of it.
Why is human friendship considered an illusion in this context? That sounds
Yeah.
harsh.
It's not harshness, it's realism. It relates back to the inevitability of separation. Every human relationship, no matter how cherished or deep, will eventually be broken.
By distance, separation, change, or ultimately death.
So, to build your entire sense of security and completeness on perpetual human companionship is to rely on an illusion that reality is guaranteed to shatter.
So embracing the mental preparedness for aloneness is the act of becoming stronger and accepting the fundamental reality of our individual existence.
Yes. And it is precisely at the height of that quiet isolation, when all external human support has been consciously set aside, that the deepest spiritual realization occurs.
The immediate, undeniable presence of the divine.
When you've cleared the noise, the signal becomes clear.
This takes us back to the great spiritual masters like Osho and Hermann Hesse, who speak about the profound loneliness required for the inward journey.
The path inward, they assert, is one of absolute aloneness. No one, not even your closest companions, can be taken along.
And Hesse noted that this path is often painful and bitter.
It is a path of suffering because you must become profoundly, sometimes agonizingly, alone. You have to confront every fear and insecurity without any external comfort.
But he assures us that overcoming this intense suffering leads to the discovery of the divine essence, the Ilahiyah, within oneself.
That spiritual core is only revealed when the self has been stripped bare of all external comforts, distractions, and dependencies. You cannot reach the center if you are constantly clinging to the periphery.
This spiritual awareness occurs in definable stages, correct? It's not just a single sudden leap.
That's right. The first stage is simply acknowledge aloneness, recognizing the fundamental existential truth of our individual existence. We are born alone, we will die alone. This foundation is necessary to stop fighting reality.
And once that reality is acknowledged, the focus shifts to the journey inward.
This is the critical internal spiritual retreat, the act of turning all your attention inward into the core of the self to encounter that ilahiyah or spiritual core. This involves periods of deep meditation, contemplation, tafakkur, and self-reflection.
Where the external material world is deliberately allowed to fade into the background. It's intensive spiritual labor.
It is.
And what happens once the individual has encountered that divine core in their solitude? How do they come back to the world?
They achieve unity consciousness. They return to society, but they are fundamentally changed. They are free from the endless distractions and temptations of worldly variety.
Because the inner realization has taught them a fundamental truth.
That all creatures, all things, are fundamentally one creation of God. They see unity and connectedness where others see only division, chaos, and competition.
So they're now fully capable of being in the world, but not necessarily of it.
Because their primary allegiance is to the core truth they found in solitude.
This concept of spiritual withdrawal seems to have a very formalized structure in Sufism, using the terms uzla, zuhud, and kolwat. For the benefit of anyone listening, could we clarify these distinctions in a bit more detail?
Absolutely. These terms describe the formalized modes of suluk, the spiritual journey. They are distinct, but they're all interrelated.
So, uzla.
Uzla is the simplest. It is the physical act of withdrawing or moving away from the bustle of society. It's the external separation, going to a quiet location, turning off your phone, retreating into your room. It is the setting, the container.
Okay, so if uzla is the external container, what is zuhud?
Zuhud is the internal state of the soul. It's the condition achieved through practice, characterized by a profound detachment from worldly temptations, desires, and materialistic concerns.
It's not necessarily poverty, then.
Not at all. It is an internal indifference to whether you possess something or not. It's a state of being free from clinging.
And then there is kolwat, which sounds like the most dedicated form of withdrawal.
Kolwat is seclusion with a specific, singular, elevated intention. Being alone with the beloved, which is God. It is separating oneself from all human and worldly concerns in order to be in a shared, intimate spiritual space with the divine.
So we can see the relationship.
Sure.
Uzla, the physical withdrawal, and kolwat, the internal focus on the divine.
Are the active methods or practices that foster the spiritual state of zuhud or detachment?
It's like setting up a laboratory.
That's a great way to put it. Uzla is building the secure, quiet lab where the experiment can be safely performed. Kolwat is the actual intentional experiment, the focused interaction with the divine.
And zuhud is the resulting stable discovery or state of purity achieved when the experiment is successful.
They are all facets of utilizing solitude for profound spiritual advancement.
So we see that this practice of temporary withdrawal, uzla, is not just esoteric or philosophical. It has profoundly practical benefits for our daily ethical and spiritual life.
Absolutely. The great scholar Imam Ghazali, in his monumental work Ihya Ulumuddin, detailed specific virtues associated with this type of seclusion.
Let's dedicate some time to unpacking those 6 benefits, as they provide an excellent rationale for periodic withdrawal. What's the first one?
The first and most straightforward benefit is increased opportunity for worship and contemplation. This is simply a matter of resource allocation. When you are alone, there are no distractions pulling at your attention, no demands on your time. This creates an optimal, unbroken environment for deep reflection, or tafakkur, and intense devotion, ibadah.
When we look at our modern lives, we realize how fragmented our attention is. I mean, even 5 minutes of uninterrupted thought feels rare.
So solitude maximizes the quality and quantity of time dedicated to internal growth by just eliminating the friction of external demands.
Okay, that makes sense.
But the second virtue is where the true spiritual genius lies. Uzla automatically frees us from common societal sins. Ghazali viewed withdrawal as essential preventative medicine for the soul.
How does physical absence function as a prophylactic against moral failure?
By removing yourself from social situations, you immediately safeguard against the 3 most insidious social transgressions. Firstly, you avoid jiba.
Gossip or backbiting?
Right, because there is no one present to gossip with. The sources are clear that the tongue is the quickest tool for spiritual destruction, and solitude immediately muzzles it.
And it also removes the pressure of obligation. Specifically, amar makruth nahi munkar, enjoining good and forbidding wrong.
And while that is a necessary obligation in society, Ghazali recognized the mental and spiritual energy it consumes and the potential conflict it generates. When you are alone, that pressure is lifted.
You're momentarily freed from that immense responsibility to correct others, allowing you to focus entirely on correcting yourself.
And critically, you eliminate the temptation of riak, or ostentation and showing off.
This is subtle but vital, isn't it?
It is. Riak is performing good deeds only so that others will praise or admire you. If there is no audience, there is no one to impress, and your acts of devotion or self-discipline become purely for principle and for the divine.
Uzla forces sincerity.
It does. You are protected from engaging in defamation, insults, and evil behavior directed at others simply because the target isn't there. This makes withdrawal a period of forced spiritual cleansing.
That leads directly to the third point, which is about peace and focus. It's about energy conservation.
It saves you enormous energy that would otherwise be spent on unnecessary conflicts, arguments, and trivial social conversations, or bossa-basy that simply waste time.
Think of the psychological toll of constantly having to defend your viewpoint or navigate social grievances or engage in superficial chatter.
Solitude eliminates this social friction, allowing that conserved energy to be channeled entirely toward internal growth and focus.
The fourth benefit highlights protection from external temptations. This links back strongly to the psychological danger of comparison.
Social interaction constantly exposes us to external stimuli that breed spiritual toxicity. You see a friend's new success, their new possession, or their seemingly perfect life, and suddenly
Start dwelling on, why don't I have that?
And this comparison leads to envy, jealousy, and worldly longing. Uzla protects you from these continuous temptations that arise purely through comparison. In isolation, your mind is forced to focus on your internal state and what you possess.
Your faith, your effort, yourself, rather than endlessly coveting what others have. The fifth virtue is profound: managing expectations. This is about cutting the strings of reliance, both yours and those others place upon you.
Precisely. By separating yourself, you sever both your excessive hope and reliance on others and the external hopes and pressures others place upon you. This is crucial for spiritual independence.
Societal expectations on how you should behave, what career you should pursue, what conduct is acceptable can be immense sources of internal stress.
And external judgment. By removing this external pressure, you increase reliance solely on the divine.
And the sources are clear that this temporary usla acts as riyada's spiritual training. It's not meant to be a permanent escape.
That's critical. If you train your spirit in isolation to be reliant only on God and focused only on principled action, when you eventually return to society, that strength remains.
You're far less likely to be tempted or stressed by external expectations because your spiritual muscles have been developed in a controlled environment.
You return as a stronger, more independent entity.
Finally, the sixth practical virtue offers protection for the ignorant. This sounds like an act of communal safety.
It is. For those who lack wisdom or are perhaps spiritually mature and prone to impulsive actions, withdrawal is mutually protective. It saves others from the consequences of their ignorance, from receiving ill-advised advice or suffering poor behavior.
And it saves the ignorant self from being contaminated by the ignorance or negative behavior of others.
It's a necessary quarantine period for spiritual and moral development.
The virtues make a powerful case for proactive, temporary withdrawal. But we also have to consider the specific circumstances when retreating into solitude is not just beneficial, but a necessary act of spiritual self-preservation.
And we have clear guidance from tradition on this. The Prophet's instruction, given certain societal conditions, is stark and incredibly specific.
This guidance is for a specific societal disease, isn't it? When a person witnesses widespread betrayal of trust and broken promises, and society is constantly engulfed in conflict and strife.
When people become spiritually intertwined in chaos, and their fingers are like fingers intertwined, in those toxic environments, the instruction is explicit. It focuses entirely on pulling back one's internal and external engagements.
The first command is, stay in your own home. This means seeking physical safety and shelter from the chaos.
The second and third commands are purely internal. Guard your tongue carefully.
Avoid engaging in the conflict you see. Avoid the gossip. Avoid contributing to the noise.
And take what you know and leave what you do not know. Focus on your core certainties, your established principles, and disregard the chaos of rumor, speculation, and endless unproductive debate.
Don't allow the societal chaos to contaminate your inner truth.
And the final instruction is the most pragmatic. Remain busy with your own affairs, leaving the affairs of the masses.
This is a clear, actionable command to seek spiritual and psychological safety. To pull away from a chaotic situation to prevent being contaminated, it's not an abandonment of the world.
No, it's a self-quarantine to maintain spiritual integrity. It's the ultimate self-defense mechanism against toxicity.
This sentiment is powerfully echoed by Ibn Someld's warning.
His analogy is striking. Humans are usually like medicine, necessary for curing our deficiencies. We need people for collaboration, love, and support.
But when humans turn into a disease for which there is no antidote,
one must flee them like fleeing a lion.
That analogy just underscores the urgency of selective withdrawal.
Social interaction is usually essential, but when the majority of social contacts begin contaminating even good people, when the behavior of others is consistently poor and infectious, usla becomes the necessary avoidance mechanism.
The contagion of evil and cynicism must be avoided at all costs if you wish to preserve your moral purity.
And finally, we see this modeled at the highest historical level. The Prophet Muhammad's own practice of usla, known as tahanis, in the cave of Hira, was a period of intense reflection.
A separation from the chaotic, ignorant society, the Jahiliyyah, that existed before his mission began.
This is key. Solitude, in this context, precedes revelation and immense public action. It wasn't an escape from responsibility, it was a period of spiritual sharpening.
Or he withdrew to achieve the clarity, unity, and strength needed to face the monumental chaos he would inevitably return to.
It demonstrates that temporary withdrawal is a profound tool for generating internal power and focus before you engage with a difficult world.
This deep dive has truly laid bare the profound difference between reactive loneliness and intentional solitude. We've established that solitude is not merely the absence of company, but a potent, intentional tool for self-mastery.
It transforms fear and emptiness into courage, self-possession, and ultimately a deep connection with the divine.
Solitude is, without question, the necessary engine for serious creativity, philosophical self-proof, and profound spiritual advancement.
But as the sources warned, the success of this transformation depends entirely on the proper formula and dosage.
The formula we learn has to be comprehensive. It must include radical reflection, disciplined self-development, and didikdui, continuous productive action, kabangan, necessary human affirmation, and a sincere spiritual focus.
And the dosage is vital. If this aloneness is executed with the correct formula and timing, if it is intentional in principle, it yields greatness, self-mastery, and spiritual strength. It makes you an eagle flying high above the noise, possessing true freedom.
But if the timing is wrong or the mindset is rooted in fear or bitterness or avoidance rather than intentional withdrawal,
it results only in corrosive loneliness, escalating stress, and eventual collapse. It turns solitude back into a deeply isolating prison.
the path to true mastery, whether creative or spiritual, is often walked alone.
But the profound realization is this. A great soul walking alone is never truly separated, for they are walking alone with God. Gray eagles fly alone, great lions hunt alone, and great souls walk alone. But in their solitude, they possess everything they need.